6:30. We will now call the Beaufort County Board of Education Legislative Committee meeting to order. It is, Tuesday, March 29, 2022, 5:30 p.m. And we have a quorum. All of our committee members are present. Angela Middleton, Patricia Fidrich, Rachel Wisniewski, and myself, Christina Guads. In addition, we have board members joining us, David Stribinger and Richard Geyer. We also have from the administration, Alice Walton. Our administrative liaison, Wendy Cartledge, does not appear to have joined us yet, and I have reached out to her by text.
She's going to get on shortly. She was heading back to her office. Okay.
So we will begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Next up, we have approval of our agenda. We have a motion from one of the committee members to approve the agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda.
Thank you, Rachel. A second?
I second it.
Okay, thank you, Angela. Any discussion? There being no hands up, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
And Tricia?
Aye.
Thank you. All right. The agenda is approved unanimously.
We don't have public comments.
Okay, thank you. I just want to report that Ms. Cartledge has joined us and Board Member Earl Campbell has joined us. Next up on the agenda is our committee scope, since this is our first meeting. And I have drafted a potential committee scope, and I thought it might be easier if we had a draft, and I'm certainly open to any suggestions or wordsmithing. Maybe, Robin, you could make it a little larger. Thank you. And I'll just read it because Rachel's has joined us by phone. So the Beaufort County Board.
I can see it, but thank you.
You can? Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes.
All right, then I don't need to read it. Everybody can see it. Just a couple comments from me is one, I thought it was important that we mentioned, we're advising the full board. We're not a separate entity with separate authority. We're, providing guidance on legislative positions and assisting with developing the board's annual legislative platform and year-round advocacy plan. In the past, we've had Kathy Robine has been great about drafting the legislative agendas or platforms after board input. And then also I thought it was important to mention that we specifically have a legislative lobbyist. We won't be lobbying specifically up at the State House. So, Dr. Wisniewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had one suggestion, and it's simply because we have an item on the agenda today that is in regard to a Town of Hilton Head ordinance, and the scope presently speaks towards just legislative positions, and I don't know if we want to include any local laws or regulations in there as well, but they do have impact on us and our budget, and obviously just by the one that's on our agenda today. So perhaps we want to amend it slightly to include local and statewide legislative and regulatory positions.
Okay. Yeah, why don't we let the others comment and then we can
Yeah, sure.
move forward. Okay, so Tricia.
Thank you. That was going to be my suggestion also, that we
Okay.
maybe include our local entities, you know, the elected officials, municipalities, states, or the any impending rules and regulations that might be more local as well. So I agree with Rachel.
So a simple suggestion would be to just put before the word guidance, we could say, or excuse me, before the word, after the word where it says guidance on, it's the second sentence, we could put local and state legislative positions. Or maybe Wendy has a, well, we have Angela's here. Angela, let me call on you first.
You already answered my question because I was going to ask how would we word that.
Okay, well, I'm not sure it's the best. How about Wendy? Got a good suggestion for wording?
I like the wording state and local and statewide initiatives
Okay.
because it's local legislation. I'm glad Rachel brought it up. And Trish,
Yeah, exactly. It's
you
a
know,
good
think
point.
about there's other matters that have an impact on us locally. It's a good idea.
Madam Chair, if I may,
Yes.
I was going to suggest local and state legislative and regulatory. I know it's a lot of ands in there, but
Sounds good though.
We're on Zoom, totally on Zoom.
So, what's your, I'd love to hear Wendy's comment of, I know what you're driving at, Rachel. It just seems like it's a little hard to understand.
yeah, I don't know if it should say local regulatory and state legislative, because the state representatives and senators are the ones that create legislation, not
Yeah,
the
that's a good way to do
local
it.
townships.
So I like that. How do the
too.
other committee members feel about that? Yeah,
I like that. I like the way it's worded.
yeah.
Yes, I think that's good.
Okay. Any other comments, suggestions from the committee members? All right, there being none, would any of the board members that have joined us that are not on the committee, would they like to make any input? All right, there being none, we need a motion to approve the scope and bring it forward to the board at the next meeting.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the legislative committee scope as written.
And a second?
A second?
All right, thank you, Angela, and thank you, Tricia. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Aye. Wisniewski,
All right.
aye.
The scope is approved as written unanimously. And thanks for the input. I think it was really good input.
So I have it correct. I added on local regulatory and state legislative. So that was the only thing that we changed, correct?
Exactly.
Okay, I want to make sure I got it correct. Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, next up. Okay, this was one of Dr. Rodriguez's suggestions for today's agenda, and alternatives to teacher certifications. As we all know, our district and all the other districts statewide and nationally are having a hard time recruiting and retaining qualified teachers. So one of the considerations would be, you know, what do we have in place in our state to attract qualified individuals in a subject area that do not necessarily have a current teaching certificate? And we have Alice Walton with us today to talk about that. So Alice, I'll let you go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi.
So the state has several routes for individuals who did not participate in a regular teaching program to enter into the classroom. And the one that's most familiar is the PACE program. Then we also have the CAPE program, and that is for CTE teachers. And then we have Teach for America, and then we have a couple of other programs that the state endorses to bring teachers out of a regular workforce into the classroom. Those programs are great, but then there are little catches in all of them that keeps us from bringing teachers directly into the field. So I'll give you an example. If I am say I am a mathematician and I work for, say Walmart, and I've done accounting and I want to change careers and I want to go into the classroom. What the PACE program will do for me is I can be accepted into the program and I can get a temporary certificate in the area that I am degreed in. So whatever my degree is in, that's what they will give me a temporary certificate in. It is a 3-year program, and it serves to bring outside people into education, but at the same time, give them that experience in the classroom, as well as teach them the pedagogy that they did not get from a traditional education program. The kicker with that is I might have worked for Walmart as an accountant, and I might not have a degree in math. So I have a degree in accounting. Well, the state will give me a certificate that will let me teach accounting, but our need is in math. So we couldn't use that teacher to teach a high school math course. So that's what hems us up with the alternative certification program. You must have a degree in the certificate that they will give you. It's a 3-year program. Yes, you can teach when you're going through the program. It is rigorous at best. You go into the classroom with no experience. Then you have to attend classes to pick up the pedagogy piece. So it is a tough program. You can only teach the class that they've certified you in. So if I come in as a high school math teacher, I can't move to middle school. I have to do my 3 years in that class setting or that level. And after I'm completely certified, if I want to move down to middle school, then I have to go back through another program to give me middle school certification. So it really puts a lot of hoops in place for people outside of the profession. It would be nice if the state would relieve some of those stipulations. And all of my colleagues across the state sing the same song every year at our yearly meetings with HR professionals. We need some relief on certification. We need you to move faster. We need you to take some of the stipulations away from us so that we can bring teachers in easier. But they tend not to want to give. So if they would just look at where we are as districts and give us, if they would throw a bone that says you can hire qualified people to go into the classroom that are not certified, and give us the same relief that they give charter schools, where they can hire up to 25% of their staff that are not certified, we can't. We can only hire certified teachers. But a charter school can hire someone that's an engineer to come in and teach math and not have a certificate. We cannot as districts, but they have not budged on that one bit. So that has always been our argument. We need some relief with that for sure.
Thank you, Ms. Walton. Dr. Wisniewski?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Walton, can you tell me what some of the arguments have been against removing these barriers? I'm trying to think, it makes absolute sense that if the public charter schools are able to do this, I'm not sure why the public schools would not be allowed to do this. So can you give me an idea of what some of the arguments against it have been in the past?
I think their arguments have not been fully convincible because we argue about the same things every year. We need to have control. We need to make sure we put qualified teachers in front of the classroom. We're responsible for 84 districts, and all of them must be equal across the board. Their relief for the charter schools is just that is a separate entity. Even though it's a South Carolina school district in itself, they feel that there's more control with the charter schools than there are with the public schools. Now that's their logic. And I have not been able, or none of us have been able to rationalize that.
Thank you for that. Is there any way that you could perhaps provide the committee with maybe a listing of the hoops that you guys are having to jump through, a list of the barriers that you see as being the most difficult to overcome? Just list them out as you see them for the different programs, so that
Sure. Yes,
because this is kind of new for me, at least, to wrap my head around. And of course, I think it's an important topic, so I want to make sure that I look at what it is that you're suggesting we remove, so that we can make a good suggestion to the full board.
sure, I can provide that. If we look at the CAPE certification, and that's where we bring in CTE teachers, that is a little bit easier route to get into education because they use work experience and they don't look at degrees, but they still overlay the praxis exam that one must take. Then they will give you experience for the years that you've worked in a field. If you were a chef, they give you X amount of years, but they don't go up but so many years. So if I brought in a chef with 25 years of experience, they will give them only 6 years and a master's degree, which puts them very low on the salary schedule. So coming from private industry into a classroom with all of that experience, the state still knocks them down because they can't get credit for the work experience fully. So I can put together a list of the hoops that we have to jump through to get teachers certified that are not going through a traditional program.
Thank you. And that example is really helpful too. Last question, Madam Chair, my apologies. Do you know of any organizations that have advocated against these alternative teacher certification routes, or against making changes to them?
No, I do not. I do not.
Thank you.
We're pretty much all on the same page. We need some relief with certification. And then South Carolina really doesn't have a true reciprocity program either. Because we will get teachers from out of state that's certified in elementary and middle school, and they come to us. South Carolina will look at their credentials and say, we will certify you in elementary, but not middle school. So that's a problem as well. So it's a lot of kinks out there.
I've looked at the website for teacher certifications, the state website, and tried to make heads or tails over the different avenues, and I was confused. So I can't imagine someone else who's coming from another industry or coming from another state trying to make heads or tails out of, can I be a teacher in South Carolina?
Correct.
So thank you for your feedback. I appreciate it.
All right. Tricia Fidrich.
Thank you, Dr. Glotz. Alice, so when you refer to they, are you talking about the Department of Education? Or are you talking about they, as in our legislators, have passed legislation that prohibits these routes to certification?
I'm talking about the Department of Education and state laws.
And the state laws passed by our legislators.
That's correct.
And Also, isn't it true that maybe some of the teacher organizations like SCEA and Palmetto State Teachers Association are against the idea of allowing teachers, non-certified teachers into the classroom? Have they not had a big pushback on this?
They had a big pushback on the last initiative. And that initiative was let classified individuals go into the classroom that have no degrees, no education, no anything. There was a pushback on the ABC Teach. In fact, at one point they were saying, they called it Anybody Can Teach, the ABC program. But you still have to have a degree with that program. You still have to go through testing with that program. But the last initiative was, if you're classified, if you're anyone and you think you want to teach, then we're going to let you go into the classroom without any support or any guidelines or teaching to get you to where you need to be as a classroom teacher. That was the biggest pushback.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Angela?
I thank you, Ms. Walton, for the information. I came in through the alternative certification program many moons ago. So my question is, do teachers those teachers that are in the PACE program and the CAPE program, do they have to pay for the master's level courses that they have to take? Because I know I had to take, not only did I have to be a part of a cohort and I took classes on the weekends and in the summers, but I also had to get those master's courses. So are they still required to pay for those courses, or does the district help in those, or the state helps?
They are still required to pay for those courses.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
At some point when we got the loan from, or the grant from the CIRA organization, we helped facilitate or pay for the CATE teachers' loans that they had to take in order to become certified. But that well dried up and we have not done that since.
How long ago was that?
About 4 years ago.
Wow. Okay. Thank you so much.
Mr. Stribinger?
Thank you, Tina.
Mhm.
A very straightforward argument, it seems to me, is that we want to be on equal footing with charter schools. I think that's an easily digestible thing to put out there that hopefully wouldn't irritate everybody. It seems so simple, and from what you were saying, Alice, I think that would take us a huge step toward where we want to get. So I'm not sure how we would push that. But it seems to me that if we focus just on that, a very simple message, we just want to be equal to charter schools, that would help us quite a bit. There's also other things that it would help with, I think, when people start talking about charter schools and vouchers, and it would highlight the fact that we are not on equal footing. So I think it has some splashover effect for us also. And I know there are a couple of bills up there now that the association is pushing on about vouchers. So, I think the timing might be good to try to get that message out. I'm not sure how the committee would formulate the message and get it out, but I'd suggest that would be a good initial step. Thanks.
I completely agree with David.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing is, why aren't we on equal footing with the charter schools? That doesn't make any sense. So how would the committee like to address this? Any suggestions?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
I think the first question that I have is there any legislation that is pending right now that perhaps is looking to address this? And if so, what stage is it in, so that we can look towards that legislation first to see if there's any amendments that we could suggest there, since it's already moving through the process. If not, and we have to start completely from scratch, then I think looking towards the actual statutes that are prohibitive, that Ms. Walton suggested or talked to, would probably be the best way to start looking at it. Just to look at the actual language that is prohibitive right now, and also see if there's any language that's moving through the system that could perhaps be modified.
Okay. Thank you. Tricia?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea, Rachel. And I was thinking that perhaps our current lobbyist could find that information for us.
That was exactly my thoughts, Tricia. So, would you, I'm happy to, yes, go ahead, Robin. I see your hands up.
I got an email from Lynn Stokes, our lobbyist, and she is available by Zoom to be at our board meeting on Tuesday.
So if the committee is in agreement with this, I could send an email to her asking her to please address this. Your question, Rachel, is, you know, what is currently before the Legislative General Assembly this year regarding this topic. Does that sound reasonable?
I think so. I don't know if I can't recall what our contract currently provides for in terms of her coming to meetings or just providing guidance via email or something like that. I'm just trying to think of the most cost beneficial way to go about doing that.
I think it will be fine. I mean, it's not on an hourly basis, or the contract, it's, you know, on a, it's a monthly well, it's really an annual basis. It's divided into monthly payments. So, and okay. It's expected that she will, you know, come and report to the board. And this is one of the questions that the legislative committee thinks would be of interest to the board. And since she's going to come to the next board meeting, I just think we can ask her, can she address this?
Oh, okay. Perfect.
All right. Tricia.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask Alice, if we were allowed to be on equal footing with the charter schools and have the same percentage of uncertified teachers as teachers, what kind of difference does she think that would make as far as our vacancies?
That's a tough question. But if we look at, say right now, right this moment, we have 314 vacancies for next year. If we look at just say 20% of those, that would be a big boost in looking for certified teachers. We'd take 60 teachers right off the top that we could put in the classroom.
So Alice, do you have people inquire about being able to teach even though they're not certified? Do you have
Yes.
people reaching out for that?
Yes.
Okay.
People that have been successful in other parts of life that would love to come in and teach, that have no degrees, or not degrees, but no certification, and could not get a certification, that would be interested in going in the classroom. Now, of course, you would have to provide them the support.
Right.
Because you just can't walk in and start teaching and with no help, because everybody can't teach. So that would require us to put another layer of support in place for those alternative or non-certified, non-educators to support that group of teachers.
Yeah. Okay. You're absolutely right about that. I think there would definitely have to be a strong layer of support for those classroom procedures and managerial and all that kind of stuff. So thank you, Alice.
Ingrid?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know that Greenville, under the new Schools of Innovation law that passed, applied for made all their schools. I'm not sure exactly how it's played out, but they had basically said they'd like to make all of their schools of innovation. And then what they were able to do was to make 2 requests, basically bypassing some of these hoops. One was to change the start date. And the other one was to allow, similar to charter schools, that they are allowed to hire 25% of their teaching staff being able to be non-certified, up to 25%. So I don't know if that was a successful strategy. So I don't know who might know that, or if Lynn Stokes is kind of aware how the Schools of Innovation law is being, implemented. But that might be a strategy if it was to be successful.
Thank you. Angela?
Hi, Ms. Walton, I am going to piggyback off of Trisha's question and comment. Have you all already considered what the layer of support will look like if you're allowed to hire non-certified teachers?
We have been working on that. In fact, Charleston and Greenville as well have their own copycat version of the PACE program in place now. I think it's Teach Charleston, and I'm not too sure what the Greenville model is named, but it's a community effort in Greenville. We are in the process of doing research now to see if we could not duplicate that here in Beaufort so that we could have a Teach Beaufort or Come Work for Beaufort and put those programs in place. And then we would have the same requirements or the same kind of support that the state has in place to surround those non-certified teachers, some balance and backup support while they're in the classroom, even to have training separate and apart for their normal classroom duties. So we are researching that right now. Jill and her acquisition team has been in touch with the state. We've already done our application. So we are well on the way of trying to create our own here in Beaufort.
Great. Yes, from a budget standpoint, it would be good, since we're now in the planning stages, to see what that would look like for numbers. And I know Colonel Geyer would be happy to see those numbers. Thank you. Ingrid?
Ingrid, your hand is still up, and you're muted, so.
Yeah, that was a total technology fail. No, my hand needs to be down, and I could not unmute because the chat kept popping up. Okay.
Alrighty. All right, so it seems like our next steps is I will contact Lynn Stokes Murray tomorrow and ask her the question we were discussing and have her give us information at our next board meeting. And then we can go from there, whether we want to bring it back to the committee or how we want to proceed.
Did you see in chat? Did you see?
No, I'm not looking at chat at all.
Colonel Geyer says we could have a partnership with the USCB School of Education to help non-certified teachers get the additional educational skills.
Sounds good. Thank you, Colonel Geyer. All right, next on our agenda is meeting with the Beaufort Delegation, and this I know Earl Campbell has brought up on more than one occasion, and Robin's going to give us a little background.
I received an email from their liaison, Cindy Maxey, today, and she wanted to know, she said right now their schedule is really busy. And I told her, and her question was, did we have any board members going to Columbia? And I said, the meeting, what we want is with the full delegation as well as with our full board. And we have had those meetings in the past. So she is asking for specifics. What do we want to meet about? What is the topics, so that she can help facilitate that? And Wes Newton is the chair of the delegation. So that's what I have so far.
And can I ask you, so the South Carolina School Boards Association does have the program where board members can go visit their respective legislative delegation at the Capitol. And this year, I believe it's April 27th.
Correct.
And how many board members are signed up for that?
Right now I have 3.
Okay. All right. Dr. Wisniewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just going to suggest, because I know they're in session and that's a very difficult time to get them nailed down. I wonder if they would be agreeable to doing a Zoom meeting. I think that might be more easily scheduled than an in-person meeting. Just wanted to make that suggestion.
That would be a good suggestion.
Yeah, I like that suggestion, Rachel. The other thing, in
Earl's
terms
hand
of,
was up.
oh, I'm sorry, who's?
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Campbell.
Oh, I don't see it. Go
Oh.
ahead, Earl.
Okay, one thing I think we need to talk to them about, I know the governor is talking about, funding formula again. Now, they do this every several years, and we still at the same, area we was 20 years ago. And my concern is, why can't they pass a funding formula that they can stick with and stop trying to change it every year? My other thing is that the state of Georgia this week just passed it. They introduced a bill to bring back retired teachers, and they will be able to draw a full salary plus their pension. And those are things that I think they need to look at. So those are two things that I'm concerned.
Okay. So I think those are good suggestions for agenda items. We could also have once the meeting was confirmed by Zoom, we could have the chair of the delegation, Wes Newton, converse with our chair, David Stribinger, to finalize agenda topics. And really, when we've done a board meeting with, for example, our county council, although that's not been the full board and the full council, it's been respective members from each. Whoever's requesting the meeting has been the one that has been able to finalize the agenda. So since we're requesting it, we could be the ones to finalize it. I also think fiscal autonomy should be on there. I know we're in the midst of working on that, but I really think that should be one of the agenda items. So what is the will of the committee?
I agree
Madam
that we
Chair?
should discuss those two topics, Madam Chair. I think those are perfect.
So
I agree. I think those are the two most pressing that we have, especially the funding one, since that's
Yeah.
going through right now.
So, Tricia?
Is there any interest in, once again, bringing up districts being allowed to set their own start date? School start date?
I don't think there's any harm in that.
Yeah, I don't either. I think the more we just keep pounding that home about local rule, it would be important.
Mm-hmm. So we could have Robin recontact Cindy Maxey, who's the executive assistant to the delegation, and say that this was discussed at legislative committee and that at the current time, we thought it would be easiest for all involved, especially because they're well into their legislative session, to do a Zoom meeting with the two respective bodies. And suggested topics include, and do you want to just list those four, which are funding formula, Earl's suggestion of bringing retired teachers back into the classroom, fiscal autonomy, and the school start date. Tricia.
Are we certain that retired teachers can't come back? I thought that they had eased up on some of those rules, so I think we need to find out that first. Is Alice still on here? She might.
Yes, she is.
Yes.
Go ahead, Alice.
Yes, retired teachers can come back. There are a couple of rules that they must follow. There is the $10,000 salary cap that apply to any retired teacher who's not going to be teaching in a high needs school. So when we bring retired teachers back, it's a process that we must go through. And it's kind of hassling for the retired teachers themselves. So for instance, we are going to offer contracts to all returning employees in the next couple of weeks. We cannot offer a retired teacher a contract until after June 1st. So the positions that retired teachers are in currently, we have to post those positions and actively seek to find someone else to fill those positions. So you have retired teachers in limbo. They're waiting to see if we can't find someone to fill their spot, if they can come back or not. Of course, principals want them back, so they don't try to actively fill those positions, but we still must post them. And I think the trauma of seeing your position posted really takes a lot out of retired teachers. Mm-hmm. So after June 1st, we can offer them a contract. They must be going to a high needs school in a high needs subject area. The state has since relaxed that a little bit. So almost everything is high needs now. So then we must complete a waiver request form for each one of those teachers, send to the State Department, have them approve it so that they can be exempt from that waiver requirement. So it's a process, a lot of hoops, versus just saying if you're a retired teacher, you can come back without all of those hassles. So they are able to come back. Only a few teachers, like PE teachers, we can't bring back if they're retired because that's not considered a high need area. Elementary teachers, not considered a high needs area based on the state's definition of high needs. So there's some kinks in that system that will keep some retired teachers out, but basically retired teachers can come back.
And Alice, did I understand you that they can come back and get their full salary if they're in a high needs or not? Did I misunderstand that?
That is correct.
Okay.
They can come back. The state must approve that they're in a high need school. So when we apply for the waiver, we say Alice Walton is coming back and she's going to be at X elementary school, which is a high poverty school. And then the state will agree to give relief from that $10,000 salary cap. And then we can bring them back at their full salary.
Okay, thank you. So, Madam Chair, I think that's some clarification on that topic. I also think that we should discuss with the legislative group about what we were just discussing about the equal footing with charter schools being able to hire 25% of our workforce being without teacher certification. So I think we should add that also.
So really it's the more general topic would be recruiting, I guess, non-traditional certified teachers for the classroom or something like that, i.e. retirees and non-certified staff. All right, next up we have David.
Thank you, Tina. I'll be really quick. We got to stop saying fiscal autonomy and say fiscal authority.
Yeah.
So just change that wording when you talk to them. Thanks.
I agree. William? Mr. Smith, please, you have to start again. I can't hear you. Mr. Smith, you are not audible. Can you please start again?
Okay, yes, ma'am. Can you hear me now?
Oh, way better.
Okay. I was going to ask that. I was going to say that.
Whatever you just did again made you inaudible. You were fine the first few words. We can't hear you, sir.
Don't worry about it.
Right there. We can hear you now.
Whatever you're doing there is fine.
Okay, I was going to say that I definitely support the motion to talk about bringing the retired teachers back, because they're definitely needed right now through this pandemic and what we have going on. So I would definitely hope that we could definitely put that in there, and also due to some of the reasons that Mrs. Walton just stated. That's what I was going to say.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell, Earl.
Yes. The program that I was talking about, the bill for Georgia, those teachers can come back with no penalties and get their full salary and keep drawing their retirement, period. So that's what we need to be focusing on.
Thank you. Ms. Boatwright?
Thank you. And this may not be something to add to the legislative delegation, but at an operations committee meeting, the clock expressed a lot of frustration with OSF, and we need to talk to the legislative delegation about the processes, et cetera, because it's causing delays and extra expenses for our referendum project. So I don't know if that's something you want to bring up with the legislative delegation, but the clock had mentioned that.
Okay, thank you. We could add that as our fifth.
Thank you.
That seems good. So, Robin, you're good to reach back out to Cindy Maxey and suggest Zoom and suggest these 5 topics.
I want to make sure I have the topics. Funding formula, bringing back retired teachers. Or are we going to list it under recruiting non-traditional, which would be charter equal footing with charter schools, and then retirees with full pension and full salary. Then we have fiscal authority, school start dates, and OSF issues.
I think you got them. All right, any further discussion on this topic, the meeting that we were just with Beaufort Delegation? Ingrid?
Sorry.
Okay, hand down. All righty. Next up is the town of Hilton Head Island is entertaining a ordinance for short-term rentals. And this was a request by Rachel for tonight's meeting. So I'll let her discuss this or start the conversation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I have a very cursory understanding presently of what the town of Hilton Head is looking to do, but based on what I've been told is that they're going to be looking to implement some short-term rental ordinances in a tiered fashion. So the first tier is dealing with garbage collection and noise and things like that. And then it's my understanding that the next tiers will be focused on perhaps restricting the amount of short-term rentals that are allowed on Hilton Head. I think it's a little bit early still. I believe they had a meeting last Tuesday on the first tier, but it's something that I wanted to bring to our attention now in anticipation of it potentially being on a future agenda for the town of Hilton Head so that we can have it on our radar and kind of discuss how that may impact us, being that a lot of short-term rentals are second homeowners, and that is the bulk of our operating revenue. So it obviously impacts us if there's a restriction placed there on Hilton Head. It's my understanding that the restriction could, deter people from purchasing a second home on Hilton Head. So really, I was just bringing it prematurely, kind of putting it on everybody's radar, and we may need to take a position depending on how the town moves.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. Ingrid?
Yeah, I mean, I know a little bit about this, and I know that that's a very big topic right now. But I want to, as we're putting on people's radar, what I want people to understand is that our low-income housing developments are being converted into short-term rentals by out-of-state investors. So the Oaks, which it actually has our largest percentage of low-income students of all the apartment complexes, at 81 of our students currently reside at the Oaks. They're being sold and now put on Airbnb for $140 a night. That's the kind of thing that Hilton Head is looking to control, because that's not good for the brand for Hilton Head to have people come down here at $140 a night and end up staying in low income housing. It's not good for our students. So I don't think they're trying to restrict trade or make it prohibitively expensive or difficult, but they're just trying to control the Hilton Head brand, control the livability and sustainability of Hilton Head, and to be honest, make sure we don't end up becoming one of those coastal communities with, a lot of low rent housing for tourists. So that's kind of the other side of that debate. Thank you. And I'm going to put my hand down.
Thank you. So it's still in the, I guess you'd say, the discussion point with Hilton Head, how they're going to handle these. I think I read that they want to have short-term rental, quote, performance standards, unquote, looking at all these things in terms of permitting and et cetera. And yes, the way I see that it could potentially affect us is what you just mentioned, Rachel, is that these short-term rentals would be taxed at 6% through property taxes, and those are contributing to our operating expenses and to our debt service. So it doesn't seem like there's really anything for us to do at this point. David?
Oh yeah, I was just going to say, I don't think there's anything for the board to do at this point or any other point. I'm not sure what the board could do to try to influence the town of Hilton Head on how they're handling short-term rentals. I'm not seeing it. I understand the revenue side, but I don't see that there's anything we could actually do. I think it's way beyond our purview to start getting involved in those kinds of things, unless they ask for a TIF, then it's a whole different deal. But
yeah, exactly.
I mean, certainly I think your position to let it play out and see when it gets more substance is probably the right way to go. Because right now, I just think it's a huge stretch. It's a local issue, not a school board issue. So, thanks.
Thank you, Rachel.
I simply think that it's important that we keep an eye on it, because if they're talking about restricting quantity of short-term rentals, I think that we need to look at our numbers. I don't know if Tanya has those, or if we're able to get those from, the treasurer's office or elsewhere. I do know that the treasurer's office has insight into, 6% on Hilton Head specific. They can look at the tags and see that. Now, the number of those that are actually short-term rentals, I don't know if we have insight into those numbers, but I would like to if we are going to try to have any influence, I think should be backed up by data and say, this is how this might affect us. Otherwise, I agree with you, David. We don't have really any influence, but if we are able to at least make an argument or a case, I think that's our duty there.
All right. Any other members like to comment? All right. So we'll, I guess, keep our antennae up and pay attention to the, what's going on regarding this. So before we adjourn, we need to decide on the next meeting time. And
Can I
yes.
suggest April the 26th? That would be the fourth Tuesday, like this one.
That was going to be my suggestion as well. Does that work for the committee members and for our liaison, Wendy? So Thursday?
Yes, that works for me.
It's
That's
Tuesday.
fine.
Tuesday, sorry, I just misspoke.
Yeah.
Tuesday, April 26th.
Yeah.
And
Will we
The
be able to
time-
start sooner?
yeah, for me, it doesn't have to be 5:30. I can really start 4 or later. But I know, Rachel, you're under more of a constraint, I think, than I am.
And Angela?
And Angela, both of you, yes. What works for you ladies?
The earliest that I can meet is 5.
Okay, that's fine. And Rachel?
5 or 5:30, preferably 5:30, but
All right. And Tricia, do you have any requests or?
No, I'm available, whatever works for anybody else.
Okay. David?
I just want to remind you that that is the day before the day at the Capitol.
Oh,
which
yeah, that's true.
That starts early, so. I think it
So
starts
can we meet? So can we meet after that? Because we may have information to bring back.
Yeah, so would you want to do,
The
what about the
28th?
Thursday that I just accidentally mentioned?
That would be the day for the ad hoc south of the, that would be the day for the ad hoc Bluffton, if the ad hoc Bluffton group is going to be meeting.
And another thing too is Hilton Head Island Academy has a program that evening at 6 p.m. There's something
Yes,
going on.
in a matter of fact, I already RSVP'd yesterday.
Me too.
Okay.
Okay,
Well,
so we can do the 25th at 5:30.
that seems, so that would be Monday, so it wouldn't be the night before Columbia for some of us.
I would
can
have
do
to
that.
change, that would be,
Agenda
we would have to change an agenda setting. Or, on that day, on the 25th at 2:30, we have ad hoc north of the Broad. Then on the 25th, we have agenda setting at 5. Not unless we move agenda setting.
Well. And
And then we
Friday,
can move into the first
Friday
week of May.
maybe that, because Friday the 22nd is our work session, right?
Correct.
Tricia?
I think Angela had a great idea that to wait until after the School Board Association meeting in Columbia, and we can glean some information from that might make our meeting more effective. So I prefer going maybe even to the beginning of May if we have to.
That's fine with me. So we probably, our first board meeting in May is at the 3rd.
Correct.
So so the first board meeting in May is May 3rd. So we could do it on Monday, the 2nd, or we could go later in the week. The
2nd works for me.
Me too. Angela and Tricia.
Looking at the calendars.
Thank you.
Angela and Rachel.
And Rachel. Yep.
I think that's good. I might be in Texas, but I can always zoom in.
Okay.
What time?
5:30 is that best for you guys? Angela and Rachel, 5:30?
Yeah. Well, Rachel will be in another
Yes,
time.
yes.
So
I know.
Whatever
I'll-
Rachel
I'll
wants
figure it
to-
out.
Okay.
I'll figure it out.
What would you, could you do 5 or no, Rachel?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. I can.
That's a
On that
little
day, I
bit
can.
preferable for me. And how about you though, Angela?
I can do 5.
All right, so we'll set it for
May 2nd at 5 o'clock.
2nd at 5 p.m.
Okay.
And would you like to do in person, hybrid, or Zoom?
Hybrid.
Okay. That way we
Hybrid
have,
means that some people are coming in here. So,
Well, it'll be easy for me because I'm already over on that side of the river.
okay,
okay.
just checking.
If you want to, or we can do Zoom if it's going to be easier for everybody. I don't care.
I'll have to do Zoom, but you all do whatever.
I can probably do either. And
Just let us know beforehand
okay,
so
yeah,
that we
let's for
know
right
how
now say
to.
hybrid. Okay. Yeah. All right. Any other business before we have a motion to adjourn? All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Fidrich. Second.
I
Ms.
second.
Wilson, thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you to
Thank
everyone
y'all.
who today. Bye.